welcome back to the line. I am one of your hosts, Coach Manny. Have you ever heard anyone say analytics have changed the game? Well, in this episode, we sit down with someone who makes a living tracking and providing the very same analytics everyone is talking about. You may have seen the name floating around in tournaments, showcases, or social media. LegitStats, and the man who built it, Marcellus Bowie. We talked to Marcellus about how he got started, how he went from covering small games and small events in local gyms to now covering Division I and pro events nationwide, why the need and demand for analytics and stats is exploding, not just at the pro and collegiate level, but also, he said, the elementary school level. We talked about the shift in culture, how old coaches may have been quick to brush up the numbers, and how today, perhaps the game is catching up to what the data has always been telling us. So if you're a coach, a parent, an athlete, or just someone who loves to understand the game deeper, this one is for you. So settle in. This conversation will give you some insight into how much analytics are truly changing the game. Let's get into it. All right, Marcellus, welcome to the podcast. We appreciate your time. We know you're busy. We were just chatting. You were telling us about your company, what you do. I'll say it. We started the podcast and I didn't click record, so this is take two. I think
Yeah. So it's gonna be better than the first one.
It's our new producer.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
So look, Coach Gadson was telling me a lot about you, including the fact that you guys may be related. So before we get into all of that, if you introduce yourself, tell us about your company, LegitStats. What do you guys do, and that sort of thing.
For sure. So yeah, my company LegitStats, we're based in the Washington, D.C. area. We're a sports analytics company providing stats and analytics for different kinds of teams, leagues, tournaments all across the country. Right now, I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. I just got here like 2 hours ago from Houston. So we've got people all across the country always, kind of taking care of things. Somebody's at the WCAC football championships. So we provide stats for basketball, football, baseball, softball, pretty much any team sports you got out there, we're doing it in some capacity. We work with colleges, AAU teams. I always like to say we're doing stats from anywhere from kids that are 8 all the way up to 80. So any kind of, if they bounce the ball, if they kick it, we can do stats for it.
All right, I'm going to follow up on that. But so what inspired you to start LegitStats? What take you, there's a saying out there today, analytics has changed the game, at least for basketball. I would assume It's the same for a lot of other sports. What inspired you to start LegitStats? So
taking it far back, when I was in college, I went to Virginia State, graduated from there in 2012. While I was there was a guy named Jack Gravely, one of my father's really good friends. He had a radio show. He needed an intern. I decided I was going to be an intern for this radio show. While I was there, I was, kind of pulling people to ask them questions for a radio show similar like this one. And as I was doing that, ran into the sports information director for our university. He said that he needed interns. As I became an intern with him, he said their graduate assistant at the time, Jason Pompey, now he's an SID at all these other schools. But he said that, I could be the statistician. So I was like, oh, cool. I like stats. Got a lot of basketball cards. I play video games. Did that my sophomore year. My junior year, he said, hey, well, Nike has this league, this AAU league. They're going to need stats for it. I'm like, you telling me that I could do it? And I'm like, nah, man, I'm a college kid. What are you talking about? It's not an opportunity. And so ended up saying, all right, taking them up on the offer. I did that for 3 years, ended up being the youngest statistician for the Nike EYBL when they first introduced stats at the very beginning of the circuit. That was like 2010, 2011. And then from there, graduated college. Like every other college student, I was like, what am I going to do now? I'm just out here. I graduated. I guess I got to get a real job and pay some bills. But I was like, well, I know how to do stats. And I know the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, sports are second to none, especially on the high school level. I went to Bishop O'Connell, so I've got a great relationship with Joe Wooten and Terry Wooten. They introduced me to some people. I started doing some events. I would go to events. I would just look at everybody's schedule in the high school area. I tell this story all the time. When I first started, I said, I'm going to start this company. I think it's going to be great for high school coaches. I went on the Washington Post. I went to every school. I emailed every coach, a couple assistant coaches too, every coach. It was like 103 in the area. Emailed everyone. Only 3 hit me back. Joe Wooten, My JV coach from O'Connell that ended up being the coach at Loudoun Valley for the girls team in Percival, Virginia, Kenyama McFarland. And then the coach at Oakton's girls basketball team said, please take me off this subscriber list. So those are the 3 coaches that hit me back out of 103 schools, boys and girls coaches. So I was kind of like, well, hey, I got to start somewhere. So I ended up working at Loudoun Valley, doing the stats for their girls team, ended up then working with the boys team, and kind of just growing from there.
Wow, I know it's crazy you tell that story, because I remember when you first started, you and I would have conversations at different games. He told me what his aspiration. I'm like, yo, keep going. It was interesting because throughout how we built Virginia Elite, and people ask a lot of times how we built Virginia Elite, was basically on stats, but I did it by memory. I look at, what kid gave me the most production and amount of time, and I still do it to this day. But I'll tell you, when when I met you and I heard about what you were doing, you told about what you were doing, and everybody sees, even at the pro level, they see these people coming around with these white sheets of paper and they're giving it to coaches. Coaches are looking at it, and but they really truly don't know the importance of that information that you're providing to these coaches. Coaches are making game time adjustments based on those stats, and the importance of that from a data analytics standpoint. And I'm an IT guy, my profession, so I really understand the importance of data and how people make decisions off of data. And you made a statement. You look at kids who are 8, 9 years old, and parents will say, "Whoa, my son is shooting 50%," and the stats say he just went 1 for 20.
Right.
So you
It's almost
use
like
that
people lie.
foundation.
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Men lie, men lie, women lie, numbers don't, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly. So you mentioned the EYBL and some of the big the EYBL, the Adidas circuit, the Under Armour circuit, where you see a lot of high level amateur basketball players are playing.
For sure.
How involved those stats that you're providing to these AU coaches, to even college coaches? Because I've seen you at certain games where you're interfacing with college coaches, giving them stats on these high school players. Can you kind of go through that psyche? What's going on with that?
For sure. So actually taking it a little bit further back to, when Manny asked me about how I got started, one of the reasons why I decided to start a stats company is because I was actually, when I was working for the EYBL when I was young, and I felt like I didn't see any other statisticians at games that I was going to. And I was a guy that went to a lot of high school games all around the country. And so we were in San Francisco, and this was when I think Anthony Davis was about to get drafted. Stanley Johnson was a junior in high school. He was playing against Malik Newman. There was a kid, Cam Williams, that was leading the EYBL in scoring. And I guess people hadn't really gotten their eyes on him because he played for a small Baltimore elite team. They didn't win a lot of games, but he was scoring. And everybody said, how is this kid scoring 20 points? What's going on? Paul Biancardi at the time was still the ESPN director of recruiting, just like he is right now. Yeah. He came over and he asked me, and he was like, yeah, well, what's going on with this Cam Williams guy? Is he good? Yeah, how you scoring? I'm kind of like, you're the director of recruiting. Why are you asking me? But at the same time, when I realized, at the same time, I have the stats. So therefore, if you want to know if he's really a good shooter, you got to look at the numbers to see if he's shooting a high percentage or not. And I'm one of the only ones that's probably seeing him game in, game out, because these college coaches, they can't be everywhere. They can only be at this court or that court. So therefore, you need to kind of rely on statisticians. So that's kind of how I ended up interfacing with media and scouts and college coaches. And it's kind of only grown, grown further to this day.
Right. So let me ask you. Go ahead, G.
Well, you mentioned Paul Biancardi, and I had the opportunity to speak with him last year several times at the Big Shots event, as well as just we ran into each other at some high-level basketball events as well. And we always talked about production and playing time. You bring up that comment of, that stat really truly is something very, very important. Matter of fact, I think you and I were talking a while back, and you were watching my cousin Jaden Chapman, who plays for PSPA. He was playing. He just committed to Rhode Island, and it's funny. I was talking to him about you and about the stat sheets that you provide to the coaches and things of that particular nature. He actually has one of your stats.
Oh, wow.
He said, because I have it. He showed it to me. I said, I know exactly where that came from.
Wow, that's
But
crazy, man.
yeah, it's real funny. And as we develop kids, and Coach Manny has a really good 7th grade team
Okay.
that we taught stats at practice and how important
It's important. It's important.
at practice. So when we're tracking things, you know, a lot of my ideas I get from other people. I tell people sometimes I don't make up nothing. I
Right.
steal it from someplace else.
Right.
I always saw you with the stats, and that's what clicked in my mind as we having these conversations with
Wow.
these kids. Is like somebody's tracking you. It's not mom or dad. It's not word of mouth.
Yep.
You know, when you turn over that ball, somebody's tracking it. When you
Yes.
missing that shot, somebody's tracking that. So yeah, man, you want to go ahead and say something?
Yeah, I'm actually related to what you're saying. So throughout the whole time the game's changed. We're talking basketball.
True.
I know you do multiple sports, but at least in basketball,
Yeah.
I'm guessing your clients, they're not always asking about shooting percentage, right?
Nah,
In today's analytic world,
a few other things
things
sometimes.
like points per possession, ball reversals,
Yep.
paint touches, right? Can you
Yep.
talk a little bit about when does that really start? Because you have clients from 8U to college, right?
Right.
When
Right.
does it really start coming into the picture, at least in what you're seeing? And do you feel like you've helped specific program through your analytics help a coach or a program unlock some sort of like, oh man, our points per possession are 1.7 when we do this?
Yes. Even without, let's say, the consulting necessarily with me, I've noticed that these coaches really do, and the best coaches. And I think that it's a couple, multifaceted answer in a sense that when you're talking about, how much it helps them and what age does it start, it really can start at whatever age the coach is ready to teach it and the kids can, receive it. They say you're only as smart it's only a great idea. You're only a smart person if you can explain it to a 5-year-old. And technically, that's what you should be able to do at 8 years old. You should be able to say that the best coaches that I had, even when I was young, could explain to me why you need to get to the paint to be able to draw the defense in and then kick it out and why that mattered. So even though you can talk about it in analytical terms, maybe, and that may be helpful for the growth of the kids down the line in terms of the numbers, just the principles are relatable to anybody playing the game, no matter how old you are. So I really think it depends on the coaches. Now, I'm lucky to have been able to work with and work at a lot of schools that have great coaches, and maybe that's why we end up working together because they're great coaches, so they can understand the relationship and the numbers that I'm going to provide for them are truly helpful and are going to help their kids and are going to help them be a better teacher, and are going to help them relay some of this information to the kids a lot better. I know that there's a lot of times the fact that we're giving them stat sheets and the fact that you can show the kid at halftime, you are 1 for 7, you are 0 for 3 from 3. Like, look at this. I've had kids plenty of times said, I thought I had 9 rebounds and they got 4. It's like, I don't know where you got this 9 from. It's easy to be delusional when you're just playing the game. So I think that it just helps you really understand not only some of those things that you're talking about, or even if it's just something as simple as plus minus. And they can say, look, when you're out there, we're our worst team. So you have to do something different. You have to play better defense. You have to hit the glass. And I just think it's easier to kind of relay that message when you have some numbers and some real facts behind it.
So do you get a lot of consultancy questions? For example, there's I'm from Puerto Rico. There's this Puerto Rican point guard used to play in the NBA, Carlos Arroyo. So he was in Miami with LeBron, used to start for a little bit. I think he was averaging 4. Right. He was averaging like 4 assists per game, 4.5, 0.2 turnovers. And for a little bit, it was like, wow, that's a really good ratio for a point guard, no turnovers. But there was a halftime they were talking. I remember Chauncey Billups saying that could also mean he's not trying to do a whole lot. Now, you could look at a stat sheet and be like, damn, 0 turnovers, that's a really good point guard. But then you have someone like Billups go like, maybe he's not trying. Then when you look at the way the Heat played, LeBron was really playing the 1 and Arroyo was just standing in the corner, right?
Right.
So in terms of the consultancy that you just mentioned, do you play a part in sort of helping some of these coaches decipher the numbers? Like, look, he's got 3 assists per game, no turnovers, but that doesn't mean he's the best taking care of the ball. he's just really hiding, and he's just,
For sure.
you know what I mean?
Because a lot of times, and it's interesting because people are out here betting and they're basing it off of
Right.
stats and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I always say, I don't bet. I'm not even a gambler really, anyway. I'm going to Vegas on Thursday. I'm like, I'm not touching a crap state.
We'll put
like,
that in the caption. Marcellus, he doesn't bet, right?
Yeah,
Right.
right. I need that. But no, it's so easy to just look at the numbers and think that you have the entire story. Or it's so easy for you to just look at the game and think that you have the entire story, when it's almost like really you need both of them to really get a better glimpse of the entire picture. That's why stats are so important, because if you didn't have stats, you wouldn't have it as good of a glimpse. You wouldn't know some of those minor details or some of those more minute things. But if you don't watch the game, then you may need somebody to tell you, yeah, like you said, yeah, he did have 4 assists and no turnovers, but he's kind of holding on to the ball too long. So they're taking worse shots because he's not giving it to guys that are open and the shot clock is getting low. It could be anything.
Wow.
So if you understand the game, then you can relay that to coaches. Then that's really important. And I think that there are a lot of coaches that I've had times, especially earlier on when I first started LegitStats, I would give them a stat sheet and they would put it on the ground. And I'm like, bro, I just told you everything that just happened in this game. And in their mind, they're like, I don't need stats. I know everything. I'm the best coach. But to me, the guys that are the best coaches, the guys like Kevin Boyle and that are winning national championships and going to coach at high-level colleges, and guys like Coach Gadson, they look at the stats and you can tell that they really look at it. And then they say, hey, so-and-so, come, let me show you this. Hey, coach so-and-so, have you noticed this? They'll circle something. And so I think that those are the ones that are the most receptive to consultation, or kind of like, what are your ideas? What are you seeing, Marcellus, or any of our statisticians that we may have at the game? Because they understand that there may be something that they didn't see that statistician saw that can help them win more games.
Now, does your company interface with some of the college statisticians as well, or have you gotten to that point? I know you mentioned you do some stuff with college at the collegiate level, and I know sometimes they're on in-house folks. How does that work when you're charged with something like that?
So a lot of times, most colleges end up actually contracting out for that kind of service. So at a point in time, we did all of the stats for every sport at Howard University for maybe 5 years. After COVID, what ended up happening, like things like Nike, YBO Scholastic, we have so many events going on that it can be tough to kind of go to DC for this doubleheader on a Thursday when, somebody's saying, hey, come do 5 games in Las Vegas, or, come to Orlando. And so it kind of became tough to do some of those seasons with colleges, but at the same time, that is a huge opportunity that's out there that can always be taken advantage of. So we
That's
definitely
like you need to expand, Marcellus. That's
always expanding, bro. Always expanding. Trying to go global.
Have you had other college students contact you regarding learning what you are doing? Because everybody wants to kind of, I want to play college ball, I want to play, get to that level, but there's so many different ways you could be in the game. And the second question is I have for you, how have you seen the game change from a statistical standpoint?
So first, going to your first question, yes, there are a lot of college students that reach out. If you ever put the jobs out, it's almost overwhelming, because I'm just one guy. And now we do have other statisticians, we do have other trainers. The software that we used to use was a little bit more outdated, so it was tough to maybe get everybody access to it. Actually, I'm breaking the news here. We're actually going to be coming out with our own software that we're kind of like really debuting. We just kind of like debuted this weekend at the Governor's Challenge Collegiate event in Salisbury.
2 announcements, G. New software, he doesn't gamble. I mean, these guys good, man.
So you'll be seeing a lot more of that. That'll be something that we'll be talking about. Hopefully, there will be students in the area that may be able to come to all of the Virginia Elite games because they need an internship, and we have our software, and that's a great partnership that we can continue to extend to Virginia Elite. But there's college kids that we have on our staff right now. Some at University of Maryland, some at George Mason, University of Richmond, Virginia State. And a lot of times I've seen these kids go on, and I tell people all the time, I always treat interns like I would want to be treated. And I've seen these kids go on to work for the Yankees, work for the Jets, work for the Steelers, because essentially if you want to work in sports management, everybody knows, just like with coaching, we want to see some experience. And it's tough to get sports management experience. There's, of course, a lot of events, but where do you get in? Where do you fit in? A lot of people want to get paid, and luckily, we're able to pay you. We're able to get you that experience. So we definitely are always open to more college kids in more cities, so that we can continue going global, like we were just talking about, Manny. So, we're definitely open to having more college students, and we're always trying to kind of bridge that gap.
Good.
Now, as far as the difference in the growth of stats in the game, I've seen it grow tremendously. I don't have barely any coaches that would take a stat sheet and not really look at it and
Right.
dissect it. Most coaches will say, "Can I get 4 or 5?" Because I've got a huge coaching staff, and I want to make sure everybody gets one. I want to make sure my AD gets one. I want to make sure sometimes that my boosters get one, or that I know Syracuse is here, and I'm going to walk this stat sheet over to Syracuse because I want them to see my sophomore point guard is having a great game. And I'm telling you all the time that he's a great player, but now look at these stats and know that he's having a great game. So
it's interesting you just said something. So the boosters are actually looking at your stats now.
Yes.
Now, does that play a
Sometimes they're more invested than the coaches.
right? So does that play a part in? Do you think that plays a part in NIL and funding and
For
all
sure.
that?
So
Wow.
long or short story. One time we were at an All-American camp, and a guy that you know very well, actually, Coach Gadson. I have to tell you, but we're at an All-American camp, and obviously everybody's competing. This is early as maybe 3rd year, 4th year that I'm running LegitStats, and it's huge camp. Zion Williamson's there. It's huge camp. And as everybody's there, there's a coach from an AAU team. He's kind of like, "Hey man, do you think my guy's gonna make the top 20 All-Star game?" And I'm like, "He's had a good camp. I think he should make it." He's like, "But nah, like it's a lot riding on this. Like I need him to make this game." And I'm like,
Wow.
"It's not up to me." But at the
Right.
same time, I'm gonna tell some people. I think that I'm gonna use my influence. But I'm like 26. I'm like I'm gonna tell them like these are really established people. So they're gonna make the decision on their own. But I'm gonna make sure they have the right numbers. And he ended up making the top 20 game. And that coach came to me. He said, "Man, the director of our organization called me and just told me how major that was." Now these are sophomores, freshmen, right? Going to be sophomores for an All-American camp, and looking at the trajectory of his career or of his recruitment and where he ended up going to school following that decision, and that he decided to stay with the AAU team instead of going somewhere else. I think that it has a huge role in NIL and things of that nature.
Okay. Now I know you're on the road right now. What are some of the events that you'll be covering that maybe people are familiar with this year on the elite high school circuits?
So we're gonna be we're at the Level Up Hoop Fest, formerly known as the Five for Fight Hoop Fest. It's always the event that kicks off the Nike EYBL Scholastic.
Right.
There's I think 7 of the top 10 teams in the country here this year. So it's going to be some good basketball. I think a few of the games are going to be on ESPN. Usually they are. We always cover Hoop Hall West. We always cover the Governor's Challenge out in Salisbury. They just had their first collegiate event this past week, and they just wrapped up maybe a couple of minutes ago. And we always cover that's the largest high school basketball tournament in the country. A lot of people don't know that. They have over like 150 games. I think 135 teams. So those are some big deals. We do all of Capital Hoops high school events, DMV Live, which brings out a lot of college coaches, helps a lot of kids get scholarship opportunities, get recruited, and huge platform. The Capital Hoops Summer League, that's another big one. So I'm going to Montverde next weekend. I'll be at the Players Era in Las Vegas on Thursday for Thanksgiving all the way through Sunday. So we've got a long list of events. The Capital City Showcase, the Nation's Capital Showcase, which is happening December 5th at Coolidge High School, bringing Sierra Canyon all the way from Cali to DC with Bishop McNamara, Bishop O'Connell, and a lot of other high-powered schools. So we get to cover a lot of good basketball and see a lot of elite talent across the country every year.
But we definitely have seen you grow and we've seen your company grow. And like we said, we've been knowing each other for a long time to see you where you're at now, and you mentioning all these different places that you're going to be, so we can see how your company, from a visibility standpoint, because I really truly, there are very few. And correct if I'm wrong, there are very few companies in your space that are doing what you're doing, especially from the platform that you just mentioned. And I know in my conversation. So, how would you tell a middle school parent or a middle school coach how impactful when we talk about stats and understanding the mechanisms around
Just
that.
stole my question, G.
Yeah, I just stole Coach Manny's question. and I tell you, Coach Manny and I, we have a lot of dialogue regarding how we make our players better, and we talk from a statistical standpoint. And sometimes we say, "Oh, it's over the head. They're 12 years old or they're 11 years old." But it's just like having any other type of conversation with a young man or young lady about that. So, Coach Manny, you want to jump and say something? I know I stole your thunder just now, but
Yeah, that was my question. So I'm coaching middle school right now, and I think to the point you made earlier about the old school coaches, right? I don't need no stats. I'm the okay, but there's also, I would argue, too technical, too analytical.
Very much
I
so.
think the better coaches are somewhere I can use the analytics to sort of drive what we do. But you still have to coach the human being, right? So I think the coach has to be somewhere in the middle. So for everything's earlier now, as you know. So for a high schooler, we talk about NIL. That's money. That's real stuff, right?
Yeah.
What are some? Do you have any advice in terms of stats? Which is the question Gaston just asked.
Yeah.
I'm a high schooler. I mean, the game's a little different now, right? I'm a big. I'm a guard. I'm a wing. But what's some of the stats these college coaches are asking or circling, right? When you see the analysis,
honestly,
that these players can focus on.
It always depends because everybody's different. But my philosophy and that I always try to tell kids is just stay within your game. So often you see kids try to do so much, and that's what leads to the turnovers. That's what leads to the bad shots. If you're a shooter, be confident, shoot the ball. The percentages will work themselves out. I've seen Jordan Scott have a bad shooting night, and then the next game he was blistering hot because he stayed confident because he's a shooter. It's going to happen. You're not going to make every shot. So I think that the biggest thing is just to think about just staying within your game, playing good basketball, and the rest will work itself out. A lot of times I also tell kids, you think about scoring a lot of points, but I think like, how many layups did you make? How many layups did you miss? How many free throws did you make and miss? Did you make two like middies essentially? Because if you can hit two middies, you can make two layups. You should be able to get a steal and get another layup. I mean, that's 12 points already. You get a couple of free throws. Next thing you know, and that's what Jordan Scott did. He just did a lot of that consistently, and look where he is now. And it's almost like, so a lot of times, like you said, people can be so technical about stats that they forget the true essence of the game is to just play the game. The stats just record what you are actually doing. So if you just keep the game simple, play what you do what you know how to do, the stats will take care of themselves.
Great. Well, this has been a great session, and we definitely gonna have additional sessions with you. We're gonna track your production,
Thank you.
schedule.
I appreciate that.
So when you do have certain events, we're gonna come talk about, man, who was good, but who was not doing it really well.
Hey, I would love that. I would love that. I tell people all the time, we watch all of these guys, and sometimes like, man, he was right. What?
Yes.
Yeah, I see that all the time. So I would love to talk with y'all about that.
I was talking to Jaden, who's a Rhode Island commit, and we were talking about scoring, and I said to him, well, how many turnovers did you have? How many bad passes? How many good passes did you have? How many paint touches did you have? Yeah. And he was like, because why are you asking me all these questions? I said, because I want to get in the mind of the point guard. And Coach Manny and I have this conversation.
Right.
So I want to end it with this. When we look at different positions, as you mentioned, Manny and I, we talk about point guards. I love bigs. I love those 4 or 5 guys. Now they're saying, well, the bigs are going away. You know me. Hey, if I get a big, I'm going to work with him. We're going to get it down.
Right.
But at those positions, do you have something that has broken down the effectiveness of that player at that position, and kind of from an analytical standpoint?
I don't necessarily have it broken down like in a real formula. It's funny because my dad asks me this all the time. He says, "Man, you have a great eye. Why don't you scout? Why don't you?" I'm like, I don't know how to teach somebody what I know. That's the hardest part about it. I just know it. But at the same time, I'm similar to yourself. Like, I've always liked the bigs. You were on Luka Garza before anybody was on him. And I tell people that all the time. And I remember going to that DMV Elite 80. I'm like, he's the best one here. No one's talking about this kid. He let it in rebound. I talked to you maybe 3 days after. And we were talking about it like, yo, this guy's amazing. Like, and then of course he just gets better and better. He lost more weight. And it's just things like bigs that run the floor, bigs that play hard, bigs that rebound. they have good hands, that are willing to kind of just continue to work through the game. A lot of times you see bigs, they're lazy, they get in foul trouble just because they don't want to continue to work through the game. But guys that are willing to work through the game, guards that are, good facilitators, they are able to create passing angles. A lot of times they're able to, that's why they don't have those turnovers, because they understand this is not a good angle. So I'm not going to throw that pass. I have to create this angle. I have to pass this guy open. Those are things that are unique. Swingmen that are long, athletic, that, run the floor, that are able to shoot, obviously are always in high demand, that are able to handle the ball, make, positive decisions. And guys that, in my mind, honestly, that are smart players. I feel like if you're a smart player, and you see some guys, and I continue to reference Jordan Scott just because it's easy to, reference him since I'm talking to you, but some guys, you just always see them in the gym. Cam Ward, same way. They're always at games, even when they're not playing. You kind of just see them. They just love it. Derek Queen was another one of those guys. You just always saw him. Like, even you see him working out. Trevor Kills, you even if he's not working out, he just likes to watch basketball. He just loves being around the game. That's honestly just as big as any skill, because the guys that I've seen really go far and make it have always typically been the guys that just want to be around basketball. They really love it. So those are kind of the metrics that I try to, put together when I think of, really good basketball.
Now, do you do any girls basketball?
Yes, we do some girls basketball, mostly for like state championships, DCSAA, VHSL, and the select games that'll be, kind of grouped into ESPN's broadcast.
Okay, sounds good. Coach Manny, you want to close it out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been a great conversation. I'm looking forward to more conversations with you, because the whole topic of analytics is very interesting to me. Like I said, I do drive a lot of my teaching based on analytics and what's working at the next level, trying to teach that to younger boys. But then making that point that these are still kids, you still got to coach the human, and there are moments and moments, right? And so I'm definitely looking forward to next conversation. I think this was great. And that's another episode of The Line. If you got value from this, like it, share it, and hit subscribe. We're building a real community here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Stay locked in. Stay within the line. Until next time.